A lot of us spend a lot of time alone when we're working on music or trying to pursue a dream in music, or, you're a producer, mixer, mastering engineer. You go at it alone most of the time. You're learning stuff on your own. You are practicing on your own. No one can really mix a song with you. It's not like the kind of thing you can really team up with somebody and do. Or if you do, you have to have the right person. Now, let me explain something I think is so critical. Competition in almost every field drives that person that's competing with someone else forward. Now, there's the right kind of competition and the wrong kind. You look at somebody like the band, the Beatles, right? Just look at that. You look at somebody like John Lennon and Paul McCartney. Now, a lot of times when people mention the Beatles, younger people get a little put off or whatever, like, oh, they're always talking about the Beatles. There's a reason. We're always talking about the Beatles because the songwriting was brilliant. Now, what fostered that amazing songwriting? In my opinion, it's not only the fact that you have two people that are very good on their own at writing songs. It's the fact that one of them would bring something to the table and the other one would feel a healthy competition to come in and do better than what they did last time so that they could sort of make another song that was looked at as favorably as the other person's song that was brought in. Like, they're always trying to one up each other on who wrote the better song. But beyond that, I think it's even more complex in a great way. If you're with somebody who's a great songwriter and you're around them, you get shown things that you might not normally have thought of on your own. You watch somebody do something and you say, I never really thought of it like that. Never thought to do this. I didn't know that that was a possible solution for the problem of how to transition from verse to chorus or bridge to chorus, or how to arrange a song, or how to take the dynamic and build upon it, or how to start with the chorus and make it feel right, or where to put a bridge in a song. I never considered that as an option. They get thrown this amazing creativity back and forth between each other to so much that both of them are constantly learning from each other. And they're trying to then utilize what they learned in their own way to create something amazing. See, that is a healthy, amazing competition. That drives what you're doing forward. The worst kind of competition is you looking at somebody else's success on Instagram or whatever, and you saying to yourself, this is not me, and that makes me sad. This could be me if I had only worked harder, if I had only, like, you being down on yourself, fictitiously competing against somebody who doesn't even know you exist, or is living their own life so you're not relevant to them, and you are over here thinking you wish you were, but you're not really looking at the why. Why aren't you? And a lot of times, you cannot just say it's luck. You have to look deeper. It's not luck. It's the fact that maybe they worked harder than you did. It's the fact that maybe you chose to do the easy thing, the non-risky thing, to go to sleep that night, or whatever. And maybe you're perfectly happy with your decision. But what I'm saying is, don't look at that as anything you should not be looking at other people's lives and wanting them. That's why I really despise a lot of that kind of, I don't spend any time on Facebook or Instagram. Let me just be totally upfront with you. I don't. It's not healthy. It's not good. All you wind up doing is seeing pictures of other people's lives, families, what they're doing, where they're going. Like, who gives a shit? It doesn't make any sense to me. What does matter is what I'm doing, and am I getting better every day? Am I trying as hard as I can every day? So what I like to do is find people that are trying as hard as me, or working as hard as me, doing as much as I'm trying to do, and get something. If you bring that person into your circle and you guys get along, now all of a sudden you have ideas you can bounce off somebody else. Maybe you have questions that they know the answer to that you don't, and you have answers that they don't know. just a healthy back and forth communication, which then in some way can also lead to a healthy competition in the sense that, I just did this. Do you like the way it sounds? What would you change anything? You try to make something you did sound better than that, and you have a back and forth that actually leads to progress. Maybe there's ideas in there, even things you hate. I love listening to music I don't like because it gives me something always that I could take from it. Not like a riff I'm taking, but just an idea. Sometimes it's what not to do, but very often within something you don't like, there's one thing you do, and if you repurpose that in some other way, you make it work for you. You make it another tool in your toolbox. You got now another thing that you never would have thought of if you didn't, technically suffer through something you didn't like. If you didn't, force yourself to try to find something to get from whatever it is you're listening to. This healthy competition helps people like us who spend a lot of time alone really getting somewhere further down the road than we are, because more often than not, it comes down to an idea. You could be a genius, beautiful mind type genius. But if you are just trapped in your own world and you're never experiencing more by taking in what other people are doing or what they thought of, if you're never out in the world, you can't come up with your brilliant idea. That might make it where now you get further down the path that you're trying to go. You now get closer to whatever it is that might make you happy. And a lot of times for people like us, it's getting that sound in our head, whatever it is. Like that's something it's not a tangible thing. When we achieve it, only we know we achieved it because we have the idea in our head of what we believe we can make something sound like. And then us getting to it is a battle against ourselves. But we can have other people around us helping in a way that will get you maybe to where you can't get on your own. It could be a path that's blocked off to you because you haven't let in other people's ideas yet. That's why one of the worst things you could ever do is assume you know everything. It's the downfall of anyone who's ever felt they knew everything. I mean, it's the downfall of all man, is just assuming you know and nobody else has a better answer. You have to always leave the room, leave a possibility out there that someone might be able to know something more than you do, might be able to give you another little breadcrumb that will get you further to where you're looking for. You have to leave the possibility open for that. You have to keep learning. But more importantly than that, the moments you learn when you weren't trying to learn is what will happen more often than not when you have a healthy competition going on with other people. And in what we do, you'd be surprised how many people, just in my comment section alone, there are tons of people just like you, just like me, people who spent their life, spent years and years and years trying to make what they're doing sound the way they hear it in their head. Taking all, success, whatever your definition of that is, taking all that out of the equation. Just look at people care enough to try for years and years and years at improving what they're doing and their skill set to be able to achieve a sound they hear in their head. That is an amazing thing that's very abstract. And it's not something that is, part of what I would consider normal everyday people type of thinking. Most people, it's very just on the surface. They get up, they do what they have to do, they come home, they whatever. And they might have hobbies and this and that, but that's why some people have such a hard time grasping what we do. Because we could work for hours on something just to make it sound a little better, never knowing if anyone's ever really going to appreciate it. It doesn't even matter. It's like we are part of our own system, our own way of life, our own way of living. And you have to let those people in because they're just like you. And in the same way, McCartney would not have achieved what McCartney achieved without Lennon being there. He wouldn't have learned as much. He wouldn't have grown as much. He wouldn't have become the amazing songwriter that he became because no doubt, I'm sure he had talent and had the ability, but he got further because of the competition. Everyone should try to do the same. And it's tough to put yourself out there. It's tough. I was talking to a friend of mine recently, and he mentioned The Predator. It's like the movie The Predator is a great movie. And a guy who's working out now, like me, who just got back into the swing, day 6 today, back and buys happened. Great workout. My stomach was dying during the stomach part of it at the end. It's like now my buddy brings up The Predator, and all I could think of was, there's a story out there where Arnie basically, has Carl Weathers do the movie, and Carl Weathers is in the best shape of his life in that movie. I mean, ripped up. And so is Arnie. And the reason Carl worked his butt off to get that ripped and that in shape was because he knew he was going to be on screen, with Arnie next to each other, shirtless in a jungle. And the last thing he wanted was Arnie to look way better than him. So there's two guys, and they're using that competition to get to better themselves. And then on the screen, you get there's no question. People in that movie, a lot of them worked really hard to look the way they do, to be able to be in those scenes and then, come off like something, knowing they're going to be in a scene with Arnie. So it made me think of that. There's a great scene where they're grasping hands. They're basically doing like a handshake thing, and their biceps are bulging out, man. I'm just saying, you don't just get like that because you want to work out. You get like that through healthy competition and not wanting to basically either, it's not really fail in your friend's eyes, but not wanting to come across less than your absolute top best potential. That's what competition breeds. It brings out the best potential, the most you can do. And I think that's a big thing, that you would get more out of yourself if you let other people in. It's tough to grasp. For a lot of years, I did a lot of stuff alone, thinking nobody would understand it, or also thinking, I don't want to share that I might not know something. It's a big thing. Everybody tries to pretend they know everything. I don't know why that is. Everybody tries to pretend they're the best mixer. They know everything. And I'm the first one to tell you that I don't. I flat out don't know everything. I know some stuff. I know a lot of stuff for doing this for years and years and years and years and years. You don't just learn this stuff overnight. It takes years to then learn it and also be able to manipulate to use what you know at the right time takes years. It reminds me of it's like a saying in some sort of martial art. It's like knowing the move is great, but when you can know that that's the right move you should execute in the moment, which goes by like this, no time to think, that's when you know you're really good. And that's when the move actually means something. Until then, it doesn't even matter that you know the move. You have to know when to use the move. I know everybody understands that this is exactly what it is to use a move that we learn and a trick we learn when we're mixing. You can't use every trick all the time, and that'd be just like going into a fight and always using the same move all the time. Eventually, you come against somebody who can't, he could see right through that, and you won't win. It's the same concept. Every song you can't do the same stuff to. You can't be methodical in what we do. This is way too abstract for that. Way too many possibilities and permutations of changing things to be able to just take any blanket anything and make it work all the time. It's not possible. So you have to be open-minded. You have to realize there's so much more out there that you could be taking advantage of if you opened yourself up a little bit. It's really, really, really critical, because the best people who do this in the world, they spent so many years learning from other people before they became the best person in the world at whatever. They had to spend the time learning. They didn't always know it all. So be vulnerable. Let people know, yeah, listen, I don't really understand this part about this thing. So maybe you could help me. Or, I like how you do that. I'm not really sure how you're doing that. Can you explain it? I'm telling you, people that do what we do, we love to explain ourselves. We love to tell people what we're doing. We love to talk about, what made a big difference and what was a light bulb moment. And, you're just missing out by thinking you know everything. So just do your best to not do that, and, sometimes I'm guilty of thinking I know the answer before I've really, really let what somebody said sink in, because that's the other thing is not everybody's the best communicator. Some people know something so well, and it's so deeply ingrained, but they can't communicate it. That's why there are some better teachers than others, because to be able to communicate your idea in a way that most people can grasp it is a very different thing than knowing something. They're not one and the same. So leave the door open for the fact that when somebody's saying something that you think there could be some nuance, there could be something else to get that you don't know. I'm just going to end it with that, because I get something out of a lot of when I hear people talk, especially people that I respect, or teaching different things about. We're in a lucky time right now in music. People can actually, we get so much access to these top guys and what they're thinking and what they're doing and their methods. But, a lot of times you got to look deeper than just a couple of the words they're saying. You got to actually look deeper into the methods they're using, why they're using it, because a lot of times they might just communicate one little thing, but it's tied to a much bigger picture. And that's also where a nice competition of some kind comes in, where you have somebody to collaborate and talk to and ask questions, because sometimes they get something you didn't get out of it, and you get something they didn't get. And then when you start talking about stuff, just easy back and forth, you get those missing pieces, and they get the missing pieces that you knew. It's really kind of amazing how the human brain works and how our ears work and how we pick up what we want and we tune out what we don't. It's just how it is. So, realize that even though two people could hear the exact same thing and get two completely different things out of it. I find that very interesting. And I've been guilty, absolutely, of kind of shutting off what I'm hearing when I think I know what somebody is saying. I think I know the answer before I've heard the question, kind of thing. And that's the worst thing I could do, honestly. And I know it's terrible and I shouldn't do it. So that's one thing I'm going to work on. We got to work on all this stuff every day, and then we get better all the time. Look in the mirror, figure out what it is that you might be able to get a little better at, and try to bring people in. Honestly, the comment section over here is thorough. So try to use that in any way you can. Utilize it, use it, drop questions, comments in there, and try to foster some relationships. Because a lot of guys who are in there have been in there for a while, and these are lifelong people, a lot of them, and some of them aren't. But either way, what everyone has to say is very valid, because like I said, there could be something in there, even if you don't think there is. There could be something. So hope that made some sense. You guys are awesome. I really appreciate it. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate it. Leave a comment. Evan Jaffe, Custom Cut Studios. You guys got this. Take it easy.